I was at a thrift store the other day and I noticed this little piece of furniture. I thought it would be great in my house as a little nightstand in a spare bedroom. So today on Woodworking with Wes, we're going to resurrect this little furniture find. Now, it's got some issues. This is the way I purchased it right from the thrift store. That's how nice it was. Only one knob, drawer face coming off. The top is all scratched and beat up. We're going to see if we can fix this up and make it look nice. See what it takes. Let's get started. I put it up here so we're going to tip it over and work on it. The first thing we're going to do is tighten up these legs. I mean, before it falls down, we better see if we can fix these legs. So we're going to turn it over. I looked at this in the thrift shop to see what it would take. I noticed that the legs are just held in by these little screws through these corner blocks. And I checked, the corner blocks are all fairly solid. The little skirt is good and solid. And so it has some good bones, I guess, for lack of a better term. The little screws that hold the legs in are tightened by an Allen wrench. So I went through my Allen wrenches and I found the right one. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tighten down these legs. And that's just a matter of tightening these bolts with our Allen wrench. One of the things that we noticed as we turned it over is that it's not a solid wood piece. This is a kind of a lower end line piece of furniture. The legs are solid, but the skirt is a particle board veneer. The top is a particle board veneer. And so it's meant to be a paint grade piece. Now see that tightened that leg up really good. This one wasn't too bad, but we'll just go around here. We'll tighten up the legs. And while it's turned over like this, we're going to go ahead and sand these legs. And we're just going to take some sandpaper and just rough them up. Because we're going to leave them painted, we're not going to worry about trying to take them down to the bare wood because we don't want to. We'll just clean them up so they're nice and smooth. This one's really loose. This is one of the fun things. To me, this is very fun. You go to a little furniture store or a little thrift shop like the one that I went to. This piece was cheap. I mean cheap. And I looked it over and it just really wasn't in too bad a shape. It needed some cosmetic restoration. So we're going to go through and give it we're going to tighten it up. We're going to give it a little sand and some fresh paint. And we're going to fix that drawer face that's ready to fall off. We're going to take our drawer face completely off. It's about ready to come off right now. We're going to get rid of this real expensive, cheapy little porcelain knob. And there's our drawer face right there. We're going to sand that up and then reattach it. We're going to sand our legs. I'm just going to have you watch as I go through and sand it. Once we get the legs and the underneath side all sanded and the drawer face sanded, I'm going to fill these holes because we're going to put one knob in the center rather than two knobs. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and just get this all sanded and cleaned up and ready to go, and then we're going to flip it over and we're going to sand the top with my sander so that we can get a nice smooth top because the top is kind of gouged up. We're going to see if we can smooth that out, and then we'll give it a coat of paint. We have got the bottom part of our little table sanded already. It took me about 20 to 30 minutes to sand this far. I sanded at 120 grit, then I sanded at 180 grit, and it's nice and smooth, ready to go for the paint that we're going to put on it. I'm going to wipe it down with a little lacquer thinner before I put the paint on it, and I'm just going to use a rattle can spray paint. But the first thing, before I do that, I'm going to sand the top, and I'm going to use my orbital sander to sand the top. There's some deep gouges on the top, and we want to make sure that we sand those all out and get that nice and smooth. And we're going to paint the top so that it has a nice smooth coat. But we'll set it down here on the floor and go after it on the top with our orbital sander. We have been sanding on our top for just a second. We've learned something. This has an oak veneer top, and it has just a little border around it and an oak veneer panel, but we're not going to. We have now taken off our initial coat of paint, and we've sanded this corner a little bit more to get down through some of the veneer. I wanted to point out, you can just see how scratched up this top was. And you can still see some of the deep gouges of the paint is still in the cracks as we've sanded this area. There's also a layer of finish on this oak top, stain and lacquer or whatever that is on there. We're sanding through that. As we sand down a little bit more, we're able to take the majority of the scratches out. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to sand down to about this level right here. We're not going to worry about the really deep scratches that still have paint in it. That actually kind of helps fill a little bit. And we're going to just get this down so smooth so that we have a nice smooth top. But we've learned a few things as we have sanded a little bit, and I just wanted you to be aware of what we're up against and what you would be up against in a similar situation if you bought a piece of thrift store furniture. You just never quite know what you're going to get into, but we're going to make this look beautiful. Let's keep working. Okay, we have now finished sanding our top. You can see how deep some of the scratches were. There's still a little paint in there. That's fine. We're smooth with the rest of it, and we'll be able to take a nice coat of paint. We're going to wipe this down with some lacquer thinner, clean off all of the dust, and then get ready to paint. We've completed all of the sanding now. I've wiped it down with lacquer thinner and taken all of the dust off of it. We're going to make painting easy, or we're going to use rattle can paint. This is Rust-Oleum. Stone gray is the color. It's a paint and primer mix. We're going to turn the cabinet over, the table over, so that we can paint the inside of the legs really good in the bottom of the feet. We're going to wait for that to dry a little bit, tip it back over, spray the underneath side here, and then we're going to tape off and we're going to paint our top a little complementary darker color. I like that idea of having just a little contrast between the top and the legs. So let's get started by tipping it over, spray. We have completed the paint on our base section of our table. We sprayed it last night, we sanded it and gave it a second coat. It's all ready to go. We're going to tape off and cover our bottom section so we don't get any overspray, and we're now getting ready to spray our top part. We're going to spray it a complementary different color. It's going to be a little bit darker, but we're all ready to go on that. We're all sanded, so let's tape off and paint. We had to give our bottom part 2 coats. We're probably going to have to give our top part 2, maybe even 3 coats to cover a little bit of that oak grain. But we're going to let this dry, give it a nice soft sand, and give it a second coat. Let's wait and see how that turns out. Well, we're all done with our little thrift store rescue. Sand, paint, two-tone paint. I really like that. We put a brand new knob on our little drawer and repaired the drawer face. I just wanted to know what you think. Was it worth it? It cost us about 2 hours and less than $20. That included the paint, the sandpaper, and our new knob. Great little addition to anyone's home, and this is something that you can do just like we did on Woodworking with Wes.